everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Brewers Best Kit 1018. It's their American Light. So what comes in the kit? Well, obviously you're going to get your formulation sheet with the instructions on how to brew it. You're going to get a can of liquid malt extract. You're going to get some rice syrup solids, some corn sugar, and some Pilsen Light spray dried malt. You'll also get your yeast, and you'll get your 2 sets of hops. Now, things you're going to need, these are optional, but I like to put all my hops into hop bags to keep the sediment low. You'll need a spoon, obviously. You don't need a hydrometer, but everyone's going to ask you what your alcohol content is, so you might as well have one and take the reading so you can tell them. You might need a hand thermometer. I have a thermometer on the boil kettle. This is good for getting the temperature on the wort when you dump it into the fermentation pail, which is right here. You'll need a tube for getting the wort from the brew kettle into the fermentation bucket. You'll need an airlock. And if you want to aerate your wort, this is one way to do it. I use oxygen and a wand. The wand I boil on the stove for 3 minutes. That's why I have a second pot boiling right now. This really helps get things going. And obviously you want to sanitize everything before you get started. That's really all there is to it. And this is a really straightforward formula. So let's get to it. We've got a nice rolling boil going. So let's go ahead and add the liquid malt extract. And again, score your label with the scissors. Soak it in hot water when you're preheating it, obviously. And that label is going to come right off. Much better than leaving it on whole and trying to struggle with it. And then I obviously scrub the jar as well, or the can, so that I can actually dunk it and get all the liquid malt extract out in the water. If you don't do that and you leave glue on there, then your friends will probably say, you know, your beer reminds me of something. Oh yeah, paste. You probably don't want that. So if you get it nice and clean, you'll be doing yourself a favor. So what we're going to do now is we are going to get all of this in the water. Once we get that done, and again, like I said, I really do like to dunk it and get all of that out. When that's done, we'll bring it back to a boil, and then we'll throw in our bittering hops, and then we'll be on a 40-minute boil. It's just that simple. So we'll be back in a few minutes when it's back up to a boil. Okay, we're back to a rolling boil, so we'll put in the bittering hops, and 40 minutes from now we'll be ready to add our rice syrup solids, corn sugar, and our spray dried malt, which I've put into this container because it's much easier to deal with than opening 3 bags and all the resulting mess when the steam catches it as you're dumping it in. So anyway, back in 40 minutes and we'll go from there. 40-minute boil is over, so let's go ahead and add the corn sugar, rice syrup solids, and the spray dried malt extract into the wort, being careful not to have a boil over. And dealing with this stuff is probably the least favorite of the things I have to do. You also want to make sure that you don't let that scorch on the bottom of the pan, so you have to really stir it. Get everything out that we can. Okay, now we'll go on a 5-minute boil, And then we'll throw in our, and I'm going to put my wort chiller in the meantime, but then after that 5 minutes is up, then we'll go ahead and put in the aroma hops. Okay, the 10-minute boil is over with. As you can see, the wort chiller's in, and let's throw in our aroma hops. And now we have a 10-minute boil, and then we're going to terminate the boil and start the wort chiller and get everything cooled down so we can dump it into the fermentation pail. Okay, we're done with the 10-minute boil. Let's go ahead and terminate it, and we'll start the wort chiller. And that will probably take about 20 minutes to drop it down to around 70 degrees where we want to move it down into the fermentation pail. So as soon as it's cooled down, we'll be back to drop it in the pail, get a hydrometer reading, and pitch the yeast. All right, we're ready to drop the wort into the fermentation pail. So I'm just going to throw the valve. I'm also going to catch some wort for a hydrometer reading. Okay, so we'll let that sit for a while, and we'll get a hydrometer reading on it. In the meantime, we'll let this dump out, and when we come back, we'll aerate the wort, and we'll pitch the yeast. Okay, the hydrometer reading shows a 1.041, which is on the upper end of the OG that they, original gravity reading that they say you should have. So I guess I feel all right about that. Now we're just going to aerate the wort, and I'll probably do that for about 30 seconds, and then we'll be able to pitch the yeast. Again, I'm not forcing a lot of oxygen through it. I'm taking my time, doing it slow. If you put too much in, I hear it's not beneficial for the yeast, so I just want to get a certain amount in there that I know is going to be beneficial and get things cranking. Okay, good enough. I'd like to run a little sanitizer in there at the same time. Okay. So let's go ahead. And you can see the yeast looks very healthy. Let's go ahead and pitch that in. And I'm just going to gently stir it in. Again, I've sanitized everything I'm using here, so shouldn't have any issues. Okay, so I'll put the lid on, the airlock on, and I'll be right back. That's it for brewing American Light, and as you can see, that is a really straightforward, easy beer to brew. Probably the second easiest compared to Weizenbier, which is just liquid malt extract. But anyway, no better way to celebrate a batch being made of the American Light than to actually kick back and have one. This was brewed back in January. And as I mentioned, this is a great beer to introduce to your friends that maybe haven't had home brew. So for those of you that celebrate Homebrew Wednesday, happy Wednesday. To the rest of you, have a great week. We'll be back next week to talk about the English Brown Ale, which looks like it's carbonating now, so should have something to try. So until then, cheers. Delicious. This has been a Matty Boy presentation. Say bye-bye, Matty. Bye-bye.